Hey everyone, Sycra here, and I'm joined by my wife Flavia,
Who's also here.
and this is another episode of the Psychological Problems podcast, a monthly, I think, podcast where we're just talking. Maybe there will be drawing in later months. I'm not sure. No promises, no guarantees.
No liabilities.
You get what you pay for. So, yeah. So this month, I don't know, did I make any videos this month? I don't think I did.
No.
Sorry about that. So we're still planning our big moving houses. That's happening next week. And that should be fun, but it keeps me preoccupied with other things than making videos. But if I'm being honest, that's not the only reason why I haven't made a video. Or why I've not been really uploading to DeviantArt recently, or Tumblr, or whatever else I upload to. Because being so busy, I actually got a break from online stuff because I had an excuse. And I think I mentioned in the last podcast, doing stuff for myself and whatnot. And it's been very good. It's very, very nice to discover what drawing is for myself. And I thought maybe that would be a good topic to talk about. Primarily this idea that you should be constantly posting and stuff as an artist. And I see why people would say so. And I completely bought into the reasoning because it's sound. The idea is you want to build your audience, and you probably are going to think you suck. So rather than just wait until you're good, which is some abstract concept, and you may not know when you're good, it's better to just keep posting, and eventually you will build a following and, success. But I don't think that it's necessary for everyone to follow that path. And it certainly doesn't seem to be for me. I have I don't know what you'd call it, if it's a method or just the way I work best is to sort of be like a hermit and practice without anyone seeing what I'm doing and develop on my own, and then come out after a while with something when I feel ready. And people have told me, you keep saying you're not ready, but you're fine, you're good enough, and I never felt that I was, but I wondered if they were right. And now I would say, I don't think so. I think I am not ready, but I do know when I'll be ready. Because I see myself getting further now, much faster than when I cared about when I was posting. Because when I was posting, it was always, I would get derailed really easily. I try to be a people pleaser. I mean, I don't want to be, but it's in my nature to people please. So, and also I want to be accepted, and I want to impress people. So if I do a picture and people are impressed, it's sort of like, well, shoot, I should do another one like this one because I want to impress them again. Or if I haven't impressed them, I might get discouraged. Or if someone says, oh, you should try something else. Maybe you should try environments. And I'll think, I was really focusing on characters, but yeah, maybe, that's a good point. And it is good to get out of your comfort zone. And I'll convince myself a very sound argument to follow this, to get out of my comfort zone. But invariably, I become derailed. I am off track and end up doing something that months or years later I look back at and like, wait, why did I do this? I was on the right track. I was doing something good for myself, and I was making progress, and I was happy with my progress. And then I posted work, and somewhere shortly after that, I am now doing backgrounds, or I am now doing something completely different. Have you had experiences like this in your work?
I suppose I've had a similar thing pretty much up until the point that I met you. Like when I met you, I was looking up art schools and trying to figure out what is this art thing? How do you do art? And the first step towards that was finding a job in an art gallery, because I thought...
Give some context to this. How old were you and what were you doing in life at this period?
I think I must have been 23, 24? I think 24 or 25, actually. And I'd finished my bachelor's degree in psychology, and I had gotten out of a pretty explosive relationship, and I'd realized that I actually wanted to do art, because throughout my childhood and then through high school and whatnot, I was always interested in art. And when it came to the point of applying or deciding which university to go to, because that's a thing you do, I always stayed away from art. I wanted to keep it for myself. I wanted to keep it personal, and I didn't want to do studies of pots and pans and brushes and eggs and all this technical stuff. I just wanted to draw whatever was therapeutic for me. I wanted it to stay subjective and to stay expressive. So my other interest was psychology. So I went into that and I kept drawing. But after a while, after a few years, I realized, like, no, actually, I shouldn't stay away from art. Actually, it is fulfilling. I keep coming back to it. And I'm just gonna tackle it. But I didn't know where to start, because for my entire life, I didn't really know any artists. And I suppose I thought about artists in a very abstract way. It's like, oh yeah, they're airheaded, and they're like, I don't know, they're scatterbrained, and they don't think about worldly things too much, and what are you gonna do with your life? And they do. So I figured, okay, let me learn about the pragmatic side of it. So go to an art gallery, apply for a job, let's see what this art world is like. And then afterwards, I started thinking about art university, because okay, I don't have enough technique. Let me learn this thing.
So you got the job in the art gallery?
Yeah.
And what type of art was your art gallery? Because you're talking about art like one thing, but
yeah, it was. I guess it is contemporary art, and it's
like abstract stuff.
Not just, but I suppose a lot of it is. It's Eastern European. A lot of chicks with dicks and all that stuff.
Yeah, but what about the art?
Yeah, the art as well. Lots of phallic stuff in there. But what it allowed me to do was notice what people were doing. Like, there's a lot of schmoozing going on. As that type of artist, that type of fine artist, you spend a couple of months in your workshop doing your pieces, doing your oil paintings, and then you spend like maybe half a year just promoting yourself and schmoozing with gallery owners and going to openings and going to other people's shows, and then just, you drink your glass of wine with them, and then you talk about nonsense, and then you pretend everything's cool, and even though sometimes you don't know what you're talking about. So that didn't enlighten me much, other than, okay, I don't think this is the right fit for me. So, okay, let's go to my most trusted avenue, school. So I looked into art universities, and then I applied to 2 of them. And one of them was the art department, and I applied online, and because it was too expensive, I couldn't.
So that school was in America, right?
Yeah, because it was too expensive for me, couldn't afford it. It's like, okay, but it did. Again, it taught me that, you need to present your pieces, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to think a certain way, and you have to think about your images a certain way, and you have to build them a certain way. It's like, okay, let me take notes on all of this, and I literally took a lot of notes and typed my texts to accompany each image. And then I went to this interview for an art university in the Netherlands, which was more of the abstract type. That definitely wasn't a good fit for me either. Even though I passed the interview, but like, no, I don't. Because what they said is, we don't care about drawing, and we don't care about how well you can draw. We care about the concept and whatever. And that was like, but I want to learn how to draw. So after this, I decided to do my own thing and go to a Comic-Con in Romania and then have a booth and put my art there as best as I can do it. And after that, I met you. And at the point that I met you, I was so confused. I remember you ranting at me. You ranted at me because I didn't know what I wanted, what I was doing. I was like, why do you want to do concept art?
Yeah. Well, you were saying like you would just try working at a video game studio.
Yeah. It felt like, oh, this is the conveyor belt that you're gonna go on, and this is how you do this art thing. After all my research, this seemed to be it. Okay, so what do I hear? Oh, you have to present your illustrations, and you have to do your studies, and you have to do your concept art, and you have to do the game studio thing. And out of everything, my closest thing was book covers, but even that is sort of, I don't know, it wasn't personal enough. So I came, when we talked, I was quite confused.
Most of the people I talk to, I mean, the students I have, I would say the vast majority want to do concept art. And then when I look through their portfolios, I think the vast majority don't even know what concept art is or don't really want to do concept art. And the way you tell is you talk to them. Okay, so what do you want to be? Concept artist. Okay, let's look at your work. And what do you like to draw? And then they tell you something completely different.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, what I really like to draw is characters, or what I really like to draw is animals. What I really like to do is this, and this. Then you look at their work and it's like, yep, you're drawing a lot of people.
Yeah.
Where's your concepts? Where are your, what is this? And then if you ask them, like, how did you come to this idea of concept art? It's, well, that's what everyone's talking about. And I pretty much, I think I fell in the same trap, I guess. Because, okay, just to add my disclaimer, because might as well. The stuff I'm talking about when I say it's not working for me, just keep in mind it's not working for me, or I didn't want to be a concept artist. Doesn't mean that concept art is not good. It doesn't mean that all these people who are professionals in the concept art industry or in the entertainment industry are wrong, or that what they're saying is bad advice. It's not that. It's just to say that this may not be for you, and you may not need to do what is the agreed upon right way of doing things in order to succeed. So again, going back to what I was talking about when I said I was told that, no, you're fine, you're good enough, just do this stuff. But inside I didn't feel like I was where I wanted to be. And this happened in animation school as well. I took a 1-year classical animation course in Vancouver Film School. And it's very condensed because most animation courses are 4-year courses. And so in 4 years, you have time. You have time to develop. And in a year, everything is very one assignment to the next assignment to the next assignment to the next assignment. And I remember getting, in the first couple of months, maybe in 3 months, there was this assignment. So first you do like bouncing ball, very basic, just to understand. Then you do like a swinging tail, which teaches you how to, I don't know what you call it, but when it's not just a pendulum, it's how if an object moves, then some parts will change direction when they turn faster than other parts. So at some point you get like an S curve to a line. If you just imagine, again, a swinging tail, when it reaches its most outward position and then it turns to go back the other way, it doesn't just freeze like a pendulum on a clock. It has like this movement to it. And that was like, okay, that's more complicated, but fine, I understood that. But a few assignments down the road, we got to a weightlifter assignment, and the idea is just show weight, have a character pick up weight, and it has to look and feel like a heavy object. And we had, I think, a week or two to do this, and it was just the overwhelming feeling I got was, I do not understand this. And the assignment looked fine. I mean, it looked okay. That I think I got a decent, grade or whatever on it. Whatever. I don't really care about grades, but because I don't think they're an accurate measure of whether or not you understand something. For instance, when I was in grade 10 or something, I was taking Japanese and I learned the alphabet, but then I forgot it really quickly after. So it doesn't mean it's stuck. It's just, oh yeah, you learned it, you took the test, you did well, and then what? Do you remember this? So with that weightlifter assignment, it's like, I felt I would probably spend weeks or maybe even months just on this one assignment, just because it felt really important. But it was already time for the next assignment. I think it was walk cycle or something. And it was just learn, get these things through and then move on. But I think what's missing is the appreciation for patience and time to develop something. It seems like it's like plants that you harvest too soon.
To me, it sounds like one of those tourist checklists. Like, oh, you go to Paris and you have the Eiffel Tower, you have the Louvre, you have the whatever else, the Arc de Triomphe, you have checklist, and you have 2 days to see them all. It's like, what are you going to learn from all of this? You're not going to get that much if you compress it to such a short amount of time.
Yeah, but then there's the flip side to that is this counter argument, which is not really an argument, but it's more pressure. It's perhaps it's, I need to make money. I need to prove that, because I've heard from some people who they have their parents supporting them, and then they need to sort of get a job to prove to their parents that yes, art is viable. Or they might be a professional who it's always been their dream to be an artist, and they quit their job, but they had enough savings to last for a year or two. So now, in this time, they have to get good, and they have to be working. And if not, they go back to their old job. And that's the thing that sucks, because I understand that. I understand the need to make money, or the need to, I don't know, like make something of yourself. You've committed to this thing, this dream, this idea that most people aren't artists, in the greater population. And so you get to a point where you start compromising, and maybe there's an urgency that is hindering your growth, but you feel like, I can't wait. I can't spend, I don't know even how long it's going to take to get better. And it's sad. It's sad that that's the case, because we need time. We need time to grow and to figure out who we are and what we want to do. And a lot of that also requires a certain amount of, I believe anyway, staying away from influences and really figuring out, what is your thing? What do you want to do? And I've seen a bunch of artists who have this voice, and it's pretty clear, but it's unrefined. And then they go to school and they kind of lose their voice, but they get skill. So it's like you made a trade-off, but everything that made you cool or interesting is now replaced with, yes, you can get a job and it's in the art field. And didn't you want to be an artist? Instead of, oh, I really want to be me, and me as an artist because I want to do my own thing becomes, oh, I get the title of artist and now I'm working as an animator or as a rigger or background artist, and maybe that's what you wanted to do, which is fine. If it's what you wanted to do originally, no problem. But if it's not, then it's a bit of a sad trade-off. And for me, I've had a lot of doubts as to, I know what I prefer to draw, but I don't know what the market is for it. I don't really understand, like, okay, even if I get good at this, is this going to sustain me? And I think what's helping now is coming to terms with, I would rather make money through teaching art and developing in order to teach better, but then do my own work for me and not for anyone else, at least for the time being. Because staying away from the internet and all its distractions can be really, really good. That's what I'm finding anyway. For me, it seems essential to not get stuck on this. You have to be online. You're always saturated with images, and stuff that looks cool can sometimes be the worst because it distracts you the most. It's like, oh wait, what that person's doing is really cool, and I was working hard to figure something out, and this seemed important, but what that person's doing is, maybe that's better, maybe that's what I should be doing because that's cool. And then going into that. But it's tricky.
I think there's a lot of merit to the idea of a gap year. I first heard about this when I was still in high school, and there was this guy I knew in a different school than I was, but he decided to take a gap year between finishing high school and going to university. He's like, I just want to go see the world. I want to figure out where I want to go, and I'm not just going to make a decision based on, oh, everybody's going to school now, everybody's doing the same thing, I have to bend under this pressure of, yeah, everybody's going to university, everybody's doing this. And a lot of people seem to be going directly from one into another, and they finish their bachelor's and immediately go into their master's degree, and the system makes it so that you kind of have to now. No, don't stop to think, don't stop to reflect, don't live life, don't gain experience, but just go and be on the treadmill some more, be on the next treadmill. And it's become this thing where in many different fields, you're more focused on hitting the marks than developing or bringing something to the world, or bringing something to your field of study or your field of work. It's like, when do you have time to make meaningful art if you're just focusing on, when's my next school, when's my next deadline, when's my next anything? Everything is driven externally instead of internally.
Yeah, but this, even with the gap year, it's like, who's supporting you? Who's paying for this?
No, that guy was just gonna do odd jobs and just travel and be light and stuff. And I thought, this is a very good idea if you know you don't know what you want. If you're not sure, it's like, because what are you, 18? You're gonna be 17, 18, and you're confused. And if you know you're confused and you have the determination to, yeah, I'm just gonna camp wherever, and I'm gonna work at a fast food, or I'm gonna switch between these jobs, and the summer I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna save up, and then I'm gonna live frugally until I can figure myself out. I feel like there's more chance that the choice you make afterwards will be more solid.
Yeah. I guess if I try and imagine myself doing that, I would have, so at that period in my life, I wouldn't know how to do anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. He didn't know how to do it either. Like, people, when I was that age, I had a bit more life skill than...
You probably had a lot of life skills by that point.
Yes, but that's just by accident. That's what I'm saying. The majority of kids in my school didn't have much in terms of life skills. They didn't know how to cook. They didn't know how to portion their money. They didn't know how to fix things. They didn't have much in terms of autonomy. It's like, oh, your parents support you, and then you have to go to school, and then you have to be and then you have to look for a job. But it's very regimented. You don't get to develop as a person, and therefore the choices you make are going to be sort of shaky. And like, if you yourself are shaky in your determination, what's to say that 10 years down the road you won't end up being burnt out or, I don't know, beaten down? And for you, you're basically taking the equivalent of a gap year now, and it's working.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than a year, because I planned, like, Pointy Chins, I guess, is when it started. I'm going to do something for myself. And then now, I guess I'm 3 years in to this, and I feel like it was sort of a 2-year exercise. I didn't fully commit to it in the sense of drop everything and just do this. However, the hardest thing is trying to convince myself that it's okay to even convince others to do this, because there's so much uncertainty. There's not, I mean, it sounds nice to hear someone tell you, oh, you know what, it's good concept art. And then it's like, here's something concrete. Instead of, I can say I'm going to figure out myself in 2 years and hope that that's what happens. That may or may not happen. I may or may not improve enough. I may have things come up in life which distract me or take me off course. And there's especially with storytelling, this is what I see the most now, is stories are not given their time. And people want me to, you know, when's this thing coming out, or when are you doing your thing? And I'm working on, like, for Affinity, for instance, I'm still working on the writing. I have no interest in rushing this, because I don't think it's going to be good if I rush it. And there's this idea of, oh yeah, but get your things out and then build up experience, and then you'll do something better. And sure, maybe that's one way of going about it, but I don't think that's necessarily the case for me. Because what I'm conveying in the story is something very close to my own development. And so far, the decisions I've found that make the story good take a long time. Sometimes they take months to solve one idea, because it's built off an idea. But now things seem to be not, I don't know, even just saying now, I suppose it's been for a long time. There's no conviction in the idea, nor is there much weight given to wisdom. That it takes time to become the type of person who has enough life experience to actually write about anything worthwhile. Because when I was a teenager, I wanted to be wise. I wanted to be one of these people who it's like, oh yeah, I'd make a cool story and it's going to be deep. And it's like, how are you going to be deep when you have nothing to draw from? And I suppose I didn't have nothing, but I had very little. Yeah. And most of the things I had were not yet, I did not see the resolution of them. I had my teenage angst and I had my worries, but I had no idea, okay, and then what happens? And so the tendency then is to copy something that's already been done, but put your own spin on it. So, oh, my thing's going to be sort of like this thing that already exists, but I'm going to do it a bit differently by having this. And I think that type of idea creation, it's okay, but it's not great. I don't think it leads to truly great works when you're sort of just looking at other people and seeing, okay, what is good. And
I think it's good for practice maybe, but it's
Sure.
kind of like training wheels on a bike. Like, eventually you lose the training wheels and ride wherever you want to ride.
See, I kind of agree and I kind of don't, because it's like, training what? What is it training? It's training you to, it's kind of like the hero's journey. And what that is it's basically, maybe it's a formula. Would you say formula? I don't know if it's a formula, but it's a way of creating a story with certain archetypes. So
If you're talking about the Bildungsroman, the hero's development is the course of the story.
Yeah, like you have a hero, and then he has a mentor at some point. And then you acquire a quest. And then or you acquire, you're confronted with something, like a change in your, so everything is normal, and then there's a change, and you're called to action. And then in your call to action, there's usually a mentor, and then you refuse the call to action at first, and then you are forced to take action
to overcome,
and then you are guided via this mentor, sent on your way, and then on your way you acquire tools, and these tools lead you to further development, and you meet antagonists and whatnot. But it's basically this formula that a lot of stories are based on. Star Wars is based on this. There's just a lot of, you have this hero, and they do, like, it's just the same as Lord of the Rings. You have Frodo, and then he meets Gandalf, and he has to go on this quest, and he has the ring, and he meets allies, and you have Luke, and then he has to leave his village because it's attacked, and then he has to
carry the ring, right?
Yeah, the light ring. But anyway, it's this thing. And that type of formulaic storytelling works because it's sort of in all of us to have this understanding. It's very common in mythology to have this journey. However, what I am a strong proponent for is building things based on not a formula, but a concept, an idea. And if the idea is strong, everything else seems to reinforce and make that idea interesting. It's a harder way of explaining it because it's much more organic. It's not really this is how you tell another story that will be popular, maybe, but it's a way of, I have a point, I want to get this point across, and then throughout this story I will be having this point tested with other characters, with other philosophies, with other ideas, and then seeing if it survives, or constructing. And again, I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm saying it's very, very rare to see stories built like this. And I feel like the ones that are much better. So even on a contemporary level, if you take a story like One Punch Man, it's basically, I hope this doesn't, it's not a spoiler for anyone, but it's basically a character who has too much power. So this is a very basic idea. Just, you have a character who's too strong and has nothing that challenges him anymore. And so boredom sets in, and sort of an emptiness. And this is an idea. It's something to build it off. Once you have that, you can then, okay, now what? See, when you have something like that, it has teeth to me. Okay, you're trying to say something, you're trying to explore something, and you can test it with, what if the person who was strong is then weak? Or what if what does it mean to be too strong? And what is really important? And it sort of brings a degree of questioning to this broad quest for power. Like so much in anime and cultures, get stronger, but to what end? And then what? Or, you go to rescue the princess or the prince or whatever, and then what? What is your point? Is your point that you are incredibly lonely? And is this going to get rid of that loneliness? What is it inside of you that is causing this? I feel there's so many more interesting ways to think about things rather than just, my story is you got a guy, and instead of an arm, he's got a gun, and his parents died, and he's an orphan, and he's traveling the world trying to seek out his purpose, or maybe he lost his memory. It's like, this is why, like, yes, you can do this,
but it is reflective of people who might be writing these kinds of stories. Because for every person that writes a story, there are, I don't know, dozens of others who don't. But they might think the same way. Because so many people lately that I've heard or read stuff from don't seem to think about why they're doing what they're doing. And a lot of this is motivated, or seems to be motivated, by fear. Like, oh, what if I'm just feeling empty inside? What if this isn't really what I want? What if I do what I feel like and fail? It seems like so many of these things, these self-reflection type of thoughts, are rejected because of fear. It's very fragile, a very fragile ego that's not easily met with failure, which should be part of the learning process, which should be part of growth, which should be part of getting better and getting stronger and just perfecting yourself. But
yeah.
It's like, it's easier to listen to somebody else telling you what to do and then casting responsibility onto them than you taking a chance and failing with your own idea. There's always that temptation.
Yeah, for me, it makes it hard to work with ideas, but better. It's a difficult thing, because a lot of the ideas are not comfortable when you really dig deep, and yet the story will be better for it.
Yep.
And there's this idea that popped up quite a few years ago, but it's sort of something that bugs me, and it's that everything is a remix idea, this movement, in a way. And what it is that basically you shouldn't worry about originality, because nothing's original. Everything's built off something else. Everything is built off what came before. However, my problem with this is, sure, on a theoretical level, I can agree with that. I can say, yes, 80% of what you create is probably not original, at least. Maybe. I mean, that's just throwing out numbers where, whatever. But the people who tend to use this argument that, well, everything's a remix, don't seem to have very original works to begin with. And it seems to be an excuse for not chasing something genuine, or rather, it dispels a shame of, well, but I'm just copying this thing. And it says, well, don't worry about copying it, because everyone else is copying it and everything is a copy. Whereas, it sounds like you want to say something.
No, I was just thinking, because when you said that, the way I think about it is, it seems like this is meant to create works that are primarily palatable, more than innovative, more than like that. If you want to create works that are made for consumption, I would agree. Like, oh, if you want to introduce a new flavor in your product, you have to go gradually, and you don't have to, you have to cater to the pre-existing palate of your consumer. But it seems very, very consumer-based and consumption based, not so much meaning or breakthrough or personal or, I don't know, individual thinking.
Yeah, for me it seems like it's, as I said, I feel like it's sort of smoothing over the difficult part of, yeah, but this might not be original. Whereas if you're telling something that is more true to yourself, originality kind of doesn't matter, and yet is in it. For instance, everyone's life is unique, because we just had different circumstances. And if I draw from my own experience and then tell my story based on that, then it is bound to be unique and original, because I am unique and original. And so far, not to say I am so different than anyone else, but insofar as no one has lived the same life I have. Whereas if I'm going to a bank of ideas that, oh yeah, this has all been done, now I just take these pieces and put a little bit of a spin on it, that's not the same. You know, it's there's sort of a burden of responsibility, and I know I've heard an artist friend of mine talk about how he doesn't like stories where people draw from their own experience, and that he doesn't think those are good. And I think those are the most important stories, because you're drawing from a genuine place, an actual, a source of, if nothing else, an example. For instance, you might have lived a life and you grew up in a certain environment and you experienced certain things and you may be 10 years old. However, if all you did was recount what you went through, that's interesting to someone because they are now gaining an insight into your life, even if there is no overriding wisdom to it. Like you're not old enough yet to understand, where does this come from? What is the point of this? How do I live better? What are my values? What are good values to have? What should I aspire to be? It's just recounting information. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And it's like, okay, well, that's a certain experience. And it's rich in that it is drawn. It's the same as drawing from reference, I feel. When you have something, an object in front of you, or you're using reference in art, in creation, and then you can go deeper because it's like, oh, there's a highlight which I wouldn't have imagined. But then it's not wrong at all to put a spin on it. So you can wrap your story in fiction all you want and obscure details, and it will still retain that core if that is where it's originated from. I think this is a lot of just me spouting my opinions, but this is what I feel like. I don't know.
I feel like it's for me the most interesting books, other than just technical books, are the ones that provide insight into other people's minds or thoughts or dreams or recollections of the past. And the more true to reality they are, the more I feel like I can get from them, because you get another person's point of view, but you filter it through your own experience. You filter it through your own, so you're completing, sort of like you have a field of vision with your eyes, and you get to see one of your blind spots. Like, oh, maybe you've never been in that position. Maybe you've never experienced that, and maybe you'll never get a chance to experience something like that. However, you get a glimpse of what it would have been, what it could have been, something you can extrapolate from. It's like, oh, how would I have acted? Oh, I hadn't considered this before. Oh, this is a strange principle I've come across.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you imagine things, it tends to be very biased. It tends to be very... I guess it gains a certain rigidity when you turn your perception into representation and then your representation into symbols. Like,
especially when you don't question those.
Yeah. And the less experience you have with other people or with other people's realities or just anything outside of yourself, the less you're likely to question it in the first place. It's like, oh, this is all I know, right? This is everything.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go from this is all I know to this is everything.
Yeah. And it's very easy to oversimplify in a way. For instance, if you look at the original Star Wars, I'm just using Star Wars because it's popular and most people know it, and you consider the Jedi and the Sith, they're very black and white. This is a very easy dichotomy between good and evil. But if you've played Knights of the Old Republic 2, it's a Chris Avellone game. He's a writer, I guess.
Yeah.
And Flavia and I are big fans of Chris Avellone. We both liked his games, but
separate
we played
games.
different games.
So, God, I like this game. Yeah, but
so
you should see this other one.
Planescape.
I like Planescape and what else did I like? He worked on
Mask of the Betrayer.
Yeah, Mask of the Betrayer, and you liked KOTOR and Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
So we came with it's like, I should show you these games. No, you should see these games. They're much better. It's like, they're the same guy.
I didn't say they were much better. Anyway. So what he did is he took this idea of I mean, not just him. This has been there before, but he really developed it, which is why I like Knights of the Old Republic 2 more so than a lot of other Star Wars related things. Is instead of good versus evil, he viewed it as passion versus, what would you call it? Duty, obligation,
justice,
tradition, what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And because those ideas are inherently more complicated than just good versus evil, you end up with much more interesting stories to tell. You can have characters which are more than just a one-dimensional bad guy. Or even the very common thing now, which is to have a character who's the hero, who happens to be bad, but he still does heroic things, but he's bad. So, your Wolverines and your Deadpools and this type of hero that it's like, oh, aren't they funny? They swear and they do this, but they're still heroes. And it's like, yeah, that's okay, but it's not really that rich. It's very surface level. It's
very airy.
It's like, yeah, okay, and
because if you're thinking of passion versus discipline as two things that pretty much every person deals with, it's like you're dealing with your primal instincts and impulses and emotions and drives, and then on the other hand, you could choose to, no, I will overcome, I will suppress my impulses, I will train myself, and I will break my habits, I will make myself, like, you can either, I'm going to be the person I am, or I am going to make myself into who I want to be. And I feel like there's merit to each of these, and that was why I liked KOTOR more than...
Yeah, and there's a lot of... So this is a fantasy world, but there's a lot of parallels because it's based off this. Even if you look at liberals and Republicans or whatever, like, and just turning it into American politics because it's so split, because it's so red versus blue, they're kind of reflected in that there's one view which is more, let's do things for the next generation and provide and look towards the future, and the other is more, this is very simplified. The other is more, okay, let's do what we have with what we have now. Let's reap all the benefits we can, and then hopefully somehow that works out for the next thing. But there's also built-in problems with each. So what's a problem with, well, hey, let's take care of our population and let's give everyone healthcare. It's like, well, where's it coming? Where's the money coming from? What kind of population does this create? Are you creating an entitlement culture where people believe that I will get benefits without putting in work? On the other hand, you could say, privatize everything. Everything is just people get what they pay for. If you work hard, you reap the rewards. If not, you don't. Then it's a case of, well, what about the less fortunate? What about people who didn't have a chance, who could very well have had the potential to be very great and contribute, but just didn't have a chance? And because both of these are like, they're points, they're legitimate arguments. It's not so easy to dismiss it as this guy wants to take over the world and kill everyone, and this other guy wants to stop him. It's like, okay, well, that's a...
Don't both of these involve a lack of screening, a lack of a personal screening process? Because with both of these alternate choices, like when you have
for sure, yeah.
There's no individual thing, because you could either be creating a state where, independently of your merits or independently of your I don't know, potential, or your whether you're good for society or bad for society, you will get helped just because you exist. But again, that seems very indiscriminate. And on the other hand, it's like, based on what you make, and somebody who never had a chance, it's like, again, no screening, no assessment of an individual's thing. Because even with the thing of parents collect wealth for their children, but their children usually so many times children are not really helped by the wealth they're given. Because they're given too much, too soon, and
in the case of wealthy parents, you mean? Because you said parents give wealth. It's not all parents. Wealthy parents have a tendency to provide for
even let's say you're part of a middle class family and the parents work pretty much most of their adult life to make money for you to go to school or for you to get a car or get your own house or anything. Like all these benefits I feel like take away from your building yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They like, oh, you'll never know what it's like to work to get a house. Or I don't know. I feel like it takes away from your autonomy, takes away some of your agency.
Yeah.
You won't be steeled by struggles.
I mean, even with art in this tutorial thing, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
I worry about that too when I'm giving a method that's like, oh, after many years, I figured this thing in art, and it may or may not be good. It's something that has helped me. So for me, it was good. Or at least at that point, I figured that was good. Like, yeah, so it seems right. I'm improving much faster. And then giving that knowledge because I didn't have it and it was so hard. But at the same time, I'm sort of, for some people, I may be robbing them of the experience of discovering that on their own.
I don't quite agree with it when it comes to your tutorials, because what you teach is not how to draw I don't know, Black Butler line by line or anything. It's like, it's a method of thinking. So they still have to put in work. They still have to do it, because otherwise it doesn't yield results. You don't just, put these 3 lines here and now you've...
Sure, but to think of what kind of person I needed to become in order to figure those things out. Not just that I had to put in work, but more than that I had to... I had to be hungry, I had to be driven, and I had to think a lot. I had to problem solve and test things in order to figure out, okay, does this work? How does this work? Let me put in the effort. And by virtue of doing that, you get a bunch of subsequent gains that aren't really from knowing the thing, but rather from figuring it out.
I don't know. I kind of think that people who would be driven and hungry to seek out your instruction are people who would think about it, who want to think about things. Because it's not you're not spoon feeding things. And that's what I liked about your tutorials in the beginning. It's like, from the get-go, it's like, no, this is how you think, and here's my thought process, and here's how I do it, and that's it. It's not... yeah, now you do it like this, and you put this line like here, and this just, you put the triangles.
Yeah.
It's not indiscriminate, so I feel like what you're doing is putting a different kind of mindset out there. Because instruction, you're not the only one doing art instruction, but with your mindset, it's pretty different than the ones I've seen. It's not so much thought-provoking. Oh, you look at a tutorial. Here's how to draw. I don't know characters. Some character from something. Naruto.
Yeah. So I guess this rant, to sum it up, would be something like, don't take the easy path and give your... I don't know, because originally I was thinking about how important it was to trust yourself. This idea of, okay, I'm not going to be online, and I'm recognizing that putting my work online is detrimental to my development at the moment. And maybe, in a month or a week or a year, I might change my mind and like, okay, you know what? I'm ready to post my work. But rather having the... I don't know if it's courage or belief in yourself to follow through with what you think is best for you and not necessarily what you have been told, which sounds good on the surface. I had another time when I was doing this, which was actually when I wanted to learn caricature, what I did is I just made a bunch of videos, and I was doing a bunch of characters for very little to no money, and posting them on YouTube. And I posted a bunch every day. And I was just getting mileage, getting mileage. Because what I'd done is I'd seen Jason Seiler had a course, and he's this great caricature artist, one of the best, I would say. And he had this course on schoolism that he just opened, and I wanted to take it, and so I applied for it. But it was the one-on-one course, so you had to wait until it was your time to go. And I think I had a month or two in between when the course was going to start and when I signed up for it. And so I figured what I need to do is get mileage, get experience with caricature. So I did a bunch of, caricatures over and over and over and over and over again. And then when I took his course, it was pretty easy, because what happened is, prior to his course, I already studied with a private teacher who taught me about values and how to, draw what you see. So he would take an egg, put it in front of me, and then I have charcoal and a big paper, and I have to draw it and make it look right. And what he would do is stand behind me and then tell me, yeah, that's too dark, that's too light. And then I would be like, He would say that's too dark, but I didn't see how it was too dark or too light. So I would just be staring and staring and staring and like, okay, that's too dark, that's too dark. And then eventually I would see, oh, I see, okay. And basically my eyes kind of leveled up because I forced them to be able to see what he was saying. And then, okay. And then I fixed it, and then it's better, and then, get better at values. So I think in a month I got significantly better at values, to a point of probably being close to most, or better than most professionals in just values. Not, I would say 9 out of 10 ability, whereas I came to it with maybe a 4 out of 10 ability. And then 10 out of 10, no, I didn't get there, because I've seen Atelier trained students get there, and I was not. In a month, I don't think so. I think it's much harder to go from 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 than from 4 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. But anyway, so I did that. And then I did these caricatures, and again, for free or very little money. And when I took the course, I was already at a point where I had taken the caricatures as far as I could take them. Like, I did not know how to make them better. I kept running into this issue of, mine don't look detailed. How do you make them look detailed? How do you get it to look so real? I don't get it. I don't know how you're doing this. And then right away, in Jason Seiler's course, he teaches you, basically, it's a painting course with caricature, but it's like how to learn how to paint. And a lot of that I already got in terms of, studying values. So I had that. And then the rest was, I did have experience with caricature, but he was filling in those little bits of information I didn't have. And so I had a huge improvement because I wasn't coming at it from zero. It was, how do you make it more detailed? And the first thing I found is, I think he was working at 3,000 pixels and higher, and I was around 1,000 or something. So of course I couldn't get that much detail. Of course, I didn't even know you're supposed to work at such a high resolution. And so immediately, just increasing the resolution had huge results. And that was big. And then the rest were just little things. It's like, okay, I didn't know how to do that. Oh, that's good. So I feel like that gave me good results. But that was all doing it myself, my own views. And then when I started learning about, when I started doing my pointy chin stuff and other stuff, I was going to go through the same method, which is basically do a bunch of stuff for little to no money. And one thing that's great about doing things for free is there's no pressure. It doesn't matter if you screw up, because it's like, yeah, sorry, I did this commission for you. Didn't really turn out, but oh well, I'll do another one. Which isn't there when someone's paying you money and you have the feeling of, I have to do a good job. I have to do this, because you still want to do a good job. You would like to make them happy, but you also know they're not paying you anything for it. It's not so bad to, just do it. But I ended up watching a bunch of Steven Silver videos. He's a good character designer. I would say a really good character designer, actually. And I actually did an interview with him. And I agree with a lot of what he says, and it sounds like good advice, and I think it is to a lot of people. But what it was is, do not do things for free. Do not sell yourself short. People who do things for free are kind of reducing the entire industry, and I understand that point. When you see things like people on DeviantArt charging like $2 or $5 for 30 minutes of work, or an hour of work, or 2 hours or 5 hours of work, that might be enough for them if they're 14 and they don't really need much money, and they're saving up so they can buy something, maybe a new video game or something. But for people who want to be professionals, it's really reducing the amount of money that people are getting paid to do certain jobs. So they're being undercharged, basically. But at the same time, so in that sense, yeah, I agree with him that you should charge and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's robbing you of that, I can do this because there's no money holding me down. And it gives you much more time to explore what you want to do. Take a job that's low risk, get a lot of experience first, and then when you're better, then find, okay, now I'm going to charge more and move into that more professional role.
It sounds like these, from your story, it sounds to me like these two periods of development and performance got crunched together.
Mm-hmm.
So now you kind of have to develop, like, sink or swim. Well, you're a kid, but you're swimming in the adult pool from the get-go.
That's pretty much how it felt. It's like, I know I don't know what I'm doing, but I kind of am good enough that people seem to be contacting me to do work. But at the same time, it's like, so one thing that's bad is by charging, in quotations, what you're worth. How do you know what you're worth? Well, whatever. You look at your level, I suppose, and what people are willing to pay for it. But immediately you cut out a lot of the low-paying jobs. Because if you're worth what would now be considered decent, I guess, $20 to $40 an hour is, to me, respectable. It's fine. For a top level person, $100 an hour is, yeah, okay, fine. You're 100 or above. It's like, well, you must be a very good professional then to be charging those rates. 10 to 15, I would say, is pretty low for an hour. But there are people who, they might only have $10 or $5, but they want something that it might take you 3 hours to do. But you're just starting out and you don't have experience. Well, that's not so bad then. Because you're kind of getting paid to do a study or to just do practice. And I think that's good in a way, in the beginning especially, to have these moments where it's like, it's not a sink or swim situation. It's just, go in the kiddie pool and get used to the water. And then to delay your I don't know, what to call it, but pay. But at the same time, I understand what kind of environment it creates. It creates an environment of, well, if I charge a little bit, then everyone else is going to charge even less if they're not as good, because otherwise they can't be competitive. And so you end up with a lot of people charging very little. So again, it creates one of these situations that it's not easy. I don't have an easy, simple solution, but that's what life is. It's not about simple solutions of this is what to do. It's more, this is a hard choice and this is a hard choice, but for different reasons. And what would you rather do? And for me, the thing is like, would you rather live with less money, but do more of what you want, or have more money and do less of what you want? It's like, less money and do more of what I want. All right, that's the thing you chose. These are the things that you're going to get for it. You might get more satisfaction in everyday life. And these are the things you're going to pay for. You won't get to go to restaurants you want to go eat at, or you might not get to travel so much, or you might not be able to afford a nice house or something like that. And I think most artists start, originally anyway, there was this understanding with artists that there would be this trade-off. And maybe it was because the starving artist idea was still pretty strong, where people would think, oh, you're going to be an artist, you're sacrificing a lot for this, well, then you better really mean it. And now there's an idea of, no, you can make money with art, you can be a concept artist, you can make money with art, you can be this, you can be that. And for sure, those jobs exist, but they all come at a cost. And to not acknowledge that cost is a disservice to yourself. Because then you don't have the choice of, okay, I will do less of what I want and more of doing stuff for other people, which means I'll get to afford an apartment, but which also means I'm going to establish a relationship with my art that might be, it's just a job. It's what I do.
So many things got crunched. Even, like, so many profiles of people got crunched together in this, I guess, industry mentality.
What do you mean by profiles of people?
Like, for example, with the DeviantArt thing that you were mentioning earlier, there's people who do it for $2, and there's professionals who do it for $100. Mm-hmm. And if enough people do it for $2, some of the professionals will start lowering their prices. Instead of staying in separate tiers, it's like, okay, so you improve. You go from $2 to $10 tier, you improve again, and you go to a $40, and then you go to $100. Whereas now it seems like they're sort of behaving as one group. Like, oh, you're dragging the industry down if you're lowering your prices. Like, why can't these two be separate categories that you're supposed to float in between? That you're supposed to move up? There's enough clients who are willing to pick a poorer level of art over a better level of art, just because of the price difference. Then where is their taste? What is this meant for? What is the purpose of this? I don't know. I feel like so many of the lines are getting blurred, and I don't think it's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, it sounds like we're just old people ranting.
Get off my lawn! Yeah, it's a bit, like, I get why. Oh, the lowering of the quality of but there's so many people who just want to do crafting an image. They're not necessarily looking for the high-end fine art, subjective, meaningful, everything. It's like, I just want to have fun drawing, and I just want to do this for a living, and
which is fine. It's just a different thing.
Yeah, but forcibly putting those people together, I feel like, creates a lot of misery on both sides of it. Yeah,
it's I suppose in the past they would be divided into artists and artisans. Mm-hmm. So an artisan creates a craft, which is something people want and they will pay money for, and it's useful to them and it provides a service. And they're usually paid less, but they get more work. And then an artist is someone who has a vision and has you're paying for the person. You're paying for them, not just to be a craftsman. And sometimes there were, the both, because, Michelangelo was pretty much a commission artist.
Yeah.
You would still have your patrons, but, he did, but it was a case of, largely arts and crafts, or art and artisanry, was sort of separated. And now it's very similar. It's very blended, to the point that there's not a lot of art with a point there. And I'm not acting like I'm creating art with a point, because I'm not really creating art with a point at this point. Just creating a lot of points.
Pointy.
Yeah, just points. But what's the point of this point?
But the idea, the concept of the starving artist, I feel, was very strong and very useful in two ways. First of all, if you're going into art, you know that you're going to have to make sacrifices. So you're not, yeah, this is my ticket to fame and I'm going to be a rock star. It's like, no, you're going to starve and it's going to be awful and it's going to be...
You're probably only going to get noticed when you're dead.
Yeah. So there's a lot of the bling stripped away from the get-go. And then secondly, you're going to be a starving artist for the longest of times because you need so much time to develop where you're not necessarily producing and pumping out and worried about, yeah, I'm going to make my money and I'm going to buy my cheese and then I'm going to, I don't know, eat it at a fancy restaurant or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so much is not worldly things. It's detached from pragmatism, and I feel like it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of those holy men who you would have a holy man and he would go to the mountains and live in a cave for years and then come back and he has, I've figured all this stuff out or whatever. Yeah. But it's like there's a huge down payment compared to, I went to a seminary and learned and now I am a priest and I'm living well. And it's a very different path and it requires a different temperament or a different character to pursue it.
Yeah, I feel like if you put your self in the service of your art, you're kind of gonna have to go for the starving artist thing. And if you put your art in the service of yourself as a person, you're gonna be fine in the commercial environment, and this is just a tool because it is a tool to begin with. Yeah. And I feel like there's two profiles that should not be mixed.
Yeah, but as an art teacher, it sounds weird when I say that, but anyway, the tools themselves are the same. It's like, you need a hammer and you need hammer, paintbrush. Well, if you're gonna be
a Freudian slip.
Doing canvases, you need a hammer.
Smash it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so you need your paintbrushes and you need your pencils and whatever. It's like the tools are the same, but the personalities are completely different. Getting or the idea of success is very different. And it's hard to know. I mean, with my audience, I wonder how many are the type who would be willing to be the starving artist. Like, I will starve or get very little and barely live, but I'll do my art and I will do what I want and it'll be me. And how many are more like, I wasn't going to do art because I thought there was no money in it. And then I found out about this job called illustrator or comic book artist or whatever, insert job here. And then I realized, I get to do the thing I love, which is art, and make money, which is a very different profile because I think that's the more common one, I'm assuming. I mean, you can, of course, write in the comments whatever you want if you want to respond to this, or if you just want to say anything else, that's fine. But I'm curious how many of the artists around are this type anymore. I'm not saying it's better. I'm really not, because I don't think I'm a starving artist, whatever, that makes you a better person. I think we're sort of bound by who we are to an extent. You are who you're able to be. And for a lot of people, like, I am in awe of people when I drive around rush hour time and I get stuck in rush hour traffic. This is very unusual for me because I don't do this. First of all, I'm barely driving around. And then when I am, I try to plan around, times when everyone else is, like, it's not rush hour. So when I do end up, for whatever reason, getting stuck in rush hour traffic, and I look around and I look in the cars and it's like, wow, every day, twice a day, these people have to do this. They have to make this commute. They get in their car and they experience this. And it is like, I would go insane. To me, having a nice house and a nice car and all the other perks probably is overshadowed by having to be in that situation. And I'm sure, it's probably, I'm missing something. Like, no, you don't get it. You're supposed to listen to an audiobook and learn on your way. And no, it's not that stressful or whatever. But it's just very, it really shows me that I am not this type. I don't think I could be this person. I would fail miserably. I would be just terrible if I had to do a job other than something creative. I would probably kill myself just because I'd get so depressed, and I'm very prone to depression. And so it's likely that's what would happen. But it does show me that, I respect those people because, wow, you can do something that would cause me to want to kill myself. That's impressive. I never really look down on people who can do things I can't do. I think, wow, you can put up with this, because I know I sure as hell can't. So it's not to say one is better than another, but it is to say these are separate things. I guess that's your point.
They're very separate, and I feel like it ties into even the idea of a gap year and finding out what you really want and who you are before you take the plunge into committing to a career for your entire life and being, I don't know, stuck in a job and not knowing. Like, if you make a decision from a point of confusion, you're making a gamble. You're not really making an informed decision. And secondly, if you're making it from a point of pressure, sure, there might be that performance thing, but I feel like more than that, there's the risk of making a desperate decision, making a desperate call, making a call that is not in line with your personality. And over the years, making more and more and overlapping those types of decisions, you are going to need a psychiatrist.
Well, granted that I needed one, but okay, so to counter this idea, or maybe offer a different perspective. So your gap year is basically figure out who you are and what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after high school,
like try out things. And
Sure. So after high school, I guess I did have that because I was supposed to go into university, and they lost my transcript, and so I wasn't able to go that year, and I would have to take the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, anyone who knows my story, there's a bunch of other stuff that went on during that period. But I pretty much had that gap year down in terms of, okay, figure out what you want. However,
I wouldn't say that was an adequate gap year, because you weren't focusing on you were just in a storm.
Well,
how do I stay afloat?
More or less, but there was an understanding of what I wanted to be. I wanted to make paintings, and I knew what type of paintings I wanted to make, and I had all this energy to do it. I just didn't have the skill. So then it was skill hunting, and over time, it took me so long to develop my skills to find how the right teachers and the right environment. But by that point, I was already, as a person, losing a lot of the initial drive, the things I wanted to express, I didn't have in me anymore. I wasn't that age where it's like, oh, all these emotions are moving me so dramatically, and it's like my life's a bit better now. I'm calming down. Things aren't so bad. I don't really want to say all this, but I've committed to this, and then it's much easier to get, because I just want to say that the gap year thing, it sounds nice in theory, but how do you know you're going to find out who you are in that time? And not just that, how do you know that you, in finding the skill, in getting the skill necessary to do your craft, are not going to evolve, or in my case, devolve, I guess, into someone else? I just feel it's a bit more complicated than just, yes, it's good to take a gap year for a lot of people, but it's not the be-all, end-all of, I'm going to take a gap year, because I have seen people who have said something very similar to this. I'm going to take a year off to do what I want, and they tell me I'm going to do art, and they might even buy a huge Cintiq so they can do their art and use it for gaming the whole year.
How is that finding out? If you're starting the gap year with the idea, I'm not talking about a gap year as in you already have an idea and you're taking time off to perfect it. I'm talking about go and experience things and make yourself into a person that can survive in life, gain skills.
But what does that mean? Survive in what life? Because again, you're talking about like a lot of what you're talking about. Having traveled to Romania, I get to see how this works here. It would not work where I grew up.
So go to Europe. If it's not here, then seek it elsewhere. See the world that you live in and be more. There's a lot of praxis missing with so many people that are young. There's a lot of theory. There's a lot of theory, and on the opposite side, there's not enough just hands-on knowledge of things. Yeah. There's a lot of fear, and what happens when you have a lot of theory and no actual factual knowledge is you are prone to spiraling and to being biased and having your views skewed. I'm not saying, I'll take a gap year and I'm already gonna invest in the Cintiq and I'm already gonna say I'm gonna be drawing, because that's what you denied yourself all the benefits of a potential gap year. It's like, is music the one that makes me happy? Is, I don't know, sailing across the ocean and working on a ship? Is that what moved me? Is, like, there are so many things that you could be fit for and that would be fit for you that you might not discover because the culture is moving towards, no, you're supposed to go from here to here and you're supposed to be this and this is what's useful and here's a job for you and if you don't have this job, you're nobody.
Yeah. Everything is so certain. It's like, you have to do this, you have to be this. And I hate it with tutorials as well, where it's like, if you want to be a good artist, you have to do this. You have to know this. And you have to post this many times on this many social whatever things. And it's like, it's usually fine.
And it's
usually
fine
works out in terms of being different and trying a different path.
Yeah.
Things that seem to get in the way are things like kids and like, well, now I have kids, so I mean, I'm not saying you can't do things, give up on your dreams. It's just I can understand how that is a real hurdle to. Mind you, the thing with kids is what bothers me. This is just a rant. This is nothing but a rant. But, like, you want to buy a car and you have to do all this stuff to prove that you can have a car. And then for a house as well. And, the banks have to check your whatever before your credit and your income and whatever, just to say, we'll give you a mortgage. And there's all this stuff you have to do and home inspections and then to have a kid, it's like nope, none.
No credibility needed, no responsibility.
I mean, just to get a job. You want to be a doctor? Well, now because that's such a big responsibility, you're in charge of someone's life. It's like, well, yeah, sure, but to be a lawyer, fine. You're in, okay, fine. Teacher or anything. It's like, yeah, you're in charge of someone's life. To be a parent, you're in charge of someone's life. There's no qualification.
Completely, yeah.
There's no, you need to be this. You need to be able to support them. I mean, beyond if you're so bad, then the government can take the child away.
But that's still not letting a child grow up in a... Again, there's no screening process.
Yeah.
No.
Very much so.
The government lets
for
a child
parenting.
grow up with... Like, okay, fine, the government helps you because you don't make enough money to support your kids. But what does that do for the kids? My parents, they don't...
And there's no test for, are you psychologically fit to be a parent? However, if you wanted to go to space, they won't let you in space unless you're psychologically fit.
Even jury duty. Didn't you say there was some sort of question?
If you want to be on the jury, you have to pass a screening process of... I know this only because my uncles, when I was very young, my uncles were talking about how to get out of jury duty, and they're like, because I guess they didn't want to do it because you're losing money, or they were anyway. So it was like, just tell them I believe in an eye for an eye, and then okay, they would get denied.
Yeah, there's so much care with assets and no consideration given to kids or humans as an asset. It's like as if you don't need more development than, I don't know, a stack of paper bills.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not going to let you put this money in the bank until we know who you are. And
yeah.
it's
like, oh, we double check you and we ask you for your aunt's middle name and her first pet's
but
name.
You could have a one-night stand with some person you meet, and they might not even be telling you their real name. They can get you pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, anyway. All right, so that's the rant. We sufficiently came to went on a tangent.
We sound like we're 80.
Yeah. Wow.
Together we're only about 60. We were also going to talk about critiques.
Critiques?
Yeah, critiques.
What the Patreon?
Yeah, we were gonna talk about.
I
critiques.
opened up some slots on Patreon for more critiques. If that's what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about a different type of critiques. Because what you've been doing.
Yeah, I know what you're gonna talk about now. Okay,
yay!
Go ahead.
Congratulations.
I'm on the same page as you.
Flipping through frantically, flipping through the.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, so basically, you've been doing one image per person critiques.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was about a week or 2 weeks ago that you got this email about...
a week ago.
Yeah, you got this email about more than one image. Like a person wanted you to look at their overall artwork and look at the patterns. And I thought that was a very good idea. Something that I'd been considering for a long time because you have a lot of analysis ability and a lot of...
I put the anal in analysis.
And a lot of pattern recognition. So I figured, why not put that to use? Why not screen, 20 images from a person within a limited amount of time? And look, you're making this mistake over and over and over again. Because one image, I feel, it's not enough. It's not enough to gauge a person's work.
Yeah.
And it's like, if there's a repeated motif, like, composition. Your images are good, you're on the right track, but your composition is sort of, and here's how you could make it better. And I feel like this is more of a helpful thing than just an image. Because if your interest as a student is how to make this one image better, sure, you can do one image. But if your interest is, where am I going wrong? Am I progressing? Am I evolving?
Yeah, what's actually going to help you?
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is, as you say, you go with an expectation of a certain kind of help and you get that, but does that necessarily help you or hinder you? And there's so much that I would like to implement. I just don't know what to call it or how it fits in or how to build for instance, meeting with people who need help in art, but in the art psychological side of it, like therapy, like what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And when I talk with Flavia, and Flavia's talked to a few of my art friends and has figured a lot of stuff out. And it's like, this would be great if the two of us were together. So you get to see what is their skill level, but also what do they require in terms of, most often it's not a technical issue. Most often, it's an issue of not knowing who you are or where you're going, what you need, and just being lost and not knowing yourself. Because we've talked about, it's important to know yourself. But that's easier said than done. And sometimes you need a helping hand to, get that knowledge. But at the same time, I don't know what to call it. Like art therapy. Oh, is this even allowed? Is this like consultation services or whatever? But I don't know. I have to figure it out. But it is something I think would be a good idea. And also multiple teacher critiques where you have a bunch of people and you have one student and like a few eyes on one student so they each can point out something different or what they see. And it's just a way of, it's more of a review than a straight up critique.
It's very helpful if you get it from different people who are coming from different viewpoints. Because again, back to what we were talking about earlier, the more of your own blind spots that you can cover, the better you'll be for it. The more you get a different perspective on your art. And sure, I guess for a lot of people this might be intimidating. Like, oh, you get a bunch of people looking at your you get a bunch of people looking at your work, and oh no, and what are they gonna say? But again, I feel like when you're a student, you're already asking for mentorship. You're already asking for guidance. You're already asking for an opinion, an extra layer, an extra pair of eyes. So the more expectation, the more you want to impress your teachers, it's like, sure, there's that, but kind of put it off to the side for the beginning.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know about these ideas yet. I'm still not sure how to implement them. I don't know. They're not really tested so much. I don't know really what kind of stresses it puts someone under. Especially if they're like, oh, I'm going to this person because I trust this person because I've spent time watching them or observing their instruction over just, okay, I'm throwing myself to the jury and being judged. But I don't know.
That's such a, like, I guess the culture is such that you would expect judgment, but a jury and a judge, that's already kind of like you're equating it to a job interview or to a I don't know. It's like, if your purpose is to learn, I don't know, I would throw stuff at pretty much anyone I thought I could learn from.
Throw stuff. Alright, well, if you have any ideas on the subject, feel free to write in the comments, and I guess that's it. Yeah, we're over an hour into it, so or over an hour and a half actually. So yep. Hope this helped. Thanks for listening.